Hey everybody, and hold on, Jeff. You need to fix your name before I put you online. So, so today we're going to talk about the latest episodes of Mandalorian and Picard and what's coming up next. Hold on, let me see if I can't fix your name for you, Jeff. Nope, you're gonna have to fix it, bro. So, I don't know what's going on. So, hold on. Let me. Sorry, guys. We're gonna pause this real quick. All right, let's try this again. Oh, hey, we're having technical difficulties. Jeff, fix your camera. So, either way, this past week's been really interesting on the show and on the channel. Um, so, with the show, both shows definitely going in a really fun direction. Hold on, we're gonna pause this crap because, sorry guys, give us a minute. We're gonna unscrew this. There. All right. So Comcast, you suck. You need to stop selling defective equipment. But either way, so let's talk about so Mandalorian. What do you think of the Mandalorian?
Uh, it's arguably my favorite Star Wars new age that they've put out so far. I think it's better than any of the new movies, any of the new other series they put out by leaps and bounds.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lot better. But yeah, so now that we're on to season 3, there's definitely some new stuff. And like after we left it on the note that it was on, uh, what do you think's next? Do you think that we're going to see Bo-Katan and Mandalorian eventually hooking up? Because I know we talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, she literally just lost her family. She lost that a long time ago. She lost her followers because she didn't have the dark saber, and the Empire just took away her home, her castle, and now she just found herself being with the Children of the Watch now because, well, she was in the Living Waters, which, as far as they're concerned, cleans up her history, and yeah, so she is now one of them.
Yeah, and I think she's going to kind of embrace it with, open arms.
Yeah, I think the only thing that she really is going to have the most trouble with is wanting to take her helmet off more than she does. But I don't know how comfortable a Mandalorian helmet is. I feel like
I can't imagine it's very comfortable, and I can't imagine it's very conducive to sucking cock either. Which, if her and Mando are going to get down, she's going to have to take the helmet off.
right, yeah, and so I still think that what's going to happen is like the pathway for her to get her throne back is going to be marrying Mando if she doesn't want to kill him because they don't want to kill each other. Um, I mean, I think Mando's got the hots for her, and at the very least, she doesn't want to kill any more Mandalorians. She thinks it's stupid, and it's like she's so critical about the uh, all these Mandalorians that have been fighting for generations for needless wars.
I don't think she can kill him.
I don't think so either,
She could
but
she could try, but I don't think she could best him 1-on-1 in combat to fight to the fight in a fight to the death. I don't
right
think. Yeah, I don't think she stands a snowball's chance in hell, to be honest.
now, so I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. But I do think
Oh,
that But I do think that I do think what she's gonna wind up getting what she wants, just not the way she thought. Because I think up until this, she looked at Mando like he was like an outcast. Because as far as she was concerned, the Children of the Watch were like an offshoot. They were separate from the rest of Mandalorian culture, which
I could
makes
see
sense.
I could see Mando dying in the end of this, or him going somewhere with Grogu, and kind of leaving the dark saber.
You think? I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he's
Well, it's
gonna abandon it.
last
I
season.
think I think what's going to happen is you've got Mando, who is very much, at this point, Grogu's father figure. I think Bo-Katan's already taken to the Lily Downs, and I think she's going to start taking it up with Mando, and I think we're going to find out that they're a bit of a family unit. Maybe not right now, but I think that's the direction that it's headed. Because
I mean, he
Bo-Katan's an
hasn't even
older.
given the unit yet, so
Yeah, I mean, she's an older character with some history in Star Wars
yeah.
anyway. Like, let me look and see when Bo-Katan, because I can never keep it straight if she was originally with from Clone Wars or if it was Rebels. Let's see here, Bo-Katan Kryze Star Wars. Looking at the wiki article right now, and yeah, Clone Wars. Yeah, so she started off in Clone Wars, then she was in Rebels. Of course, those were animated. Now she's live action with Mandalorian. So that's the same. So this is some of the same thing that they're doing, like with Ahsoka Tano. She was originally in Clone
Yeah,
Wars. she popped up in Rebels, and then she was also live in um, Mandalorian, and so now, as far as I know, they're still moving forward with an Ahsoka Tano series, but that that remains. So now, some of the things that we're talking about that they're going to bring back with this next episode, just judging from the trailer, and they're bringing back Admiral Thrawn that was from
Yeah.
Rebels.
Yep.
So, and I think that's going to be a really interesting direction for them to just bring him back. So, if you remember in Rebels, Rebels kind of spans before the original trilogy, but
Yeah.
the last season of it also takes place after. Like, I don't know, um, I can't remember exactly how they progressed it through the series, but at some point, that Rebels literally takes place as a side story from the main trilogy. So by the time we get done within that last season of it, this is after the Battle of Endor, and Admiral Thrawn is left with Ezra to do something. I think Ezra was on Thrawn's ship. So that's
Yeah.
another character that we can anticipate to see. Because if they're bringing back Thrawn, that's who Ezra was going after. Ezra Bridger. That's who he was going after to, um, in his last quest.
So, what do you,
So
you think they're going to do like a standalone movie for Grogu or for the for Mando?
I think you know what, that would be a really good subject for an actual movie. Um,
I think both of them would.
Yeah, and
And honestly, focus
so
on it.
the only reason I can see why they wouldn't do a movie with it is because with these shows, the higher production quality. So like what they did with Obi-Wan, for example, was they were originally going to do a movie, and they
Yeah.
ended up
Yep.
turning it into a series because they were able to explore the story deeper, make it longer. So in a way,
Yeah, but there's something
Mandalorian.
to be said about capitalizing on that cinematic, getting people into the theaters money.
Yeah, I mean, and they should still do a movie with it though. Like maybe not so much with Obi-Wan, but because Obi-Wan was one where moving it from a movie to an actual series was way better. I
Yeah,
think that was way better than
I'd
just
like to see more of the Obi Wan too.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to the next season of Obi-Wan. I think we talked about that. They're
Uh,
definitely.
Starts this month, I believe.
I think yeah. I think that's what we found out. And so yeah, they're doing a lot of interesting stuff with the Star Wars universe. So we
So, who
got
do you think they're going to do a series for next?
so I think what's coming next in the Star Wars universe is going to be the Ahsoka series. I really think that's the next big thing that they're going to do. I
It'll be
haven't really
amazing.
been So I haven't been following Bad Batch, and since we're talking about it, I kind of want to address the issue of why I stopped doing Bad Batch review videos. So first, let's talk about why I did the Bad Batch review videos to begin with. I was looking for a way to put some regular content on the channel, and this was before Picard and Mandalorian came back out. And so on one hand, yeah, I did get into the habit of having regular reviews that I did. I find it very difficult though to follow and just make that many review videos about each episode. First off, they're about 20 to 24 minutes long. They're geared towards kids, but it's still considered canon, so it's worth watching at least to understand what happens. But much of what happens in those stories is so inconsequential to the main story that you could ignore it.
You know what
But
show we need to do some reviews for? Have you
huh,
seen The Ring of Power yet?
not
Uh,
yet.
oh, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. I
I'll
just
have to.
I just watched the last episode a couple days ago. I thought I had actually finished the series like 2 months ago when it first dropped, and evidently I missed an episode, the very last episode. which
Right.
yeah, I can't wait for next season. But I would definitely rewatch it again, and I think that'd be something that would be awesome to,
Yeah.
especially since it's a sci-fi thing. Might as well,
Yeah. But I mean, overall, like with the issue that I have with the Bad Batch, it's not that I'm not going to do more review videos of the Bad Batch. I just feel that having a broader retrospective video after the series is over with. So I think there's about 5 or 6 more episodes that are coming out of it, and I think after I've watched all of those, it might be worth. It'll definitely be worth doing just an entire season 2 retrospective rather than reviewing individual episodes. Some of these episodes, again, because they're geared towards kids, they're not doesn't have the same seriousness that the live action series do. Um, so some of the stories don't actually move the story forward, if that makes any sense.
oh
They're
no, it
like
makes perfect sense.
they're side quests, and it's the kind of thing that a lot of like 90s TV shows did, and
Is it modern? Go ahead.
especially with like the older Star Trek series. I think back to Voyager, where there were a lot of episodes in Voyager that didn't actually move the story forward any, but they were still just an extra story. Like the episode where they tried Warp 10 and the captain in Paris turned into salamanders or whatever. Like that didn't move the story forward because after that happened, it never turned into a thing again. So like with the Bad Batch, like they had that episode where they went to some planet to get some artifact and ended up discovering this ginormous mech that was, I don't know, like a kill and eat everything
It's
in
like a
its path.
sci-fi cartoon, a D&D campaign. That's
Yeah, I mean, it's just not that big. Like that show just doesn't have the same pull as Mandalorian. Now, it is interesting that they're showing the Mandalorian and the Bad Batch at the same time because on one hand, Bad Batch is showing the beginnings of the Empire, and Mandalorian is showing the very endings of the Empire with the Imperial Remnant. So that's definitely a really interesting thing where we can see the beginning and the end at the same time. Um,
yeah,
and that's why that's the main reason why I enjoy watching the Bad Batch. Because at this point in the Bad Batch, they are phasing out the clone troopers. They've aged. The Empire is having problems with the clones because a lot of them have started to rebel against the Empire because they're not stupid. They may be programmed to be
stupid.
soldiers that just follow orders, but they're also human beings with their own thoughts, and they're
And their
starting
own
to
total.
realize, this empire thing that we just kind of got conned into fighting for might not be such some good people after all. They're assholes. They're killing everybody. They're doing things that aren't characteristic of the republic that we were originally created to fight for. And so, like, you get the Bad Batch themselves that are absolutely against the Empire.
Yeah,
And you get what they call the Regs that are also very much against the Empire. And so you get some that don't want to believe things. But every single time that they send somebody from the Bad Batch to actually talk to some of the clones that are deployed, that are watching, that are actually doing their jobs. Like the most recent episode, they went to some ice planet and they had realized that they had sent help requests to the Empire to get more people because there were raiders, there were local wildlife that was killing them massively,
yeah.
and it was for like what I'm guessing is at least a month or more of trying to get reinforcements in the Empire. Instead of sending reinforcements, sent a single shuttle with about a dozen new stormtroopers. If you pay attention to their helmets and their gear, those aren't clones. Those are new soldiers that they've inducted in, that they've trained.
I didn't
They're
notice that.
the so they're the stormtroopers, and so the Imperial commander that they sent out to, which I thought it was interesting and significant that his rank was lieutenant, and so the clone commander that he went to take charge of actually outranked him, but because he was a clone, he was bigoted towards the clone and basically said, "Screw you, because I'm a normal human being and you're a clone. Even though I'm lieutenant, you still need to listen to me. I'm in charge here." And there's just all this contempt that they're breeding for these clones. And I think this kind of leads into why eventually in the Mandalorian, where the New Republic outright bans cloning research.
Yeah.
Um, and so for so many reasons, like the only people that have continued to enjoy and support the cloning technology are the Imperial Remnant. So we have Pershing, who that was literally his job. That's what he had been interested in his whole life. That's literally the
Yeah.
only thing he's ever done was genetic engineering and cloning. And he made some serious advancements, things that
Impact.
probably would benefit the New Republic. I think his intentions are very well placed, but it's with the wrong people because these people, they remember clones that uh, and a whole clone army that was for the Republic, and they had, eventually been used to turn against the people. So they're trying to avoid having the same thing happen again by, let's not have another fucking clone army.
Yeah. We need to have a group of people who actually is capable of thinking for themselves and having that morality versus that adherence to following orders.
Exactly, because what made the rebellion successful wasn't because they were programmed like robots. Remember the rebellion took over the empire, it defeated the empire, who had the sheer numbers, and they like the only difference is beside the sheer numbers was the fact that they were programmed basically like they were indoctrinated from a very young
Yep.
age. So we find out that like like if you look deep into Star Wars lore, most of the stormtroopers they were children taken from their families at a very young age, and they had like the only life they knew was trained at the Imperial Academy. Um, and this is something that keeps coming up every single time I watch any, read any books, I watch any movies, play any video games. The common denominator is they don't have they don't know their family.
Yep.
And so, because they don't know their family, the only family in life they know is their allegiance to the empire. Com-
And there's nothing else that
Contrast
ties
that.
any sort of loyalty or any sort of
Exactly.
differentiation between right and wrong, good and bad. It's
Yeah,
just
and
the empire and what the empire says is
mhm.
you know it is the facts and it is the say all end all in everything that they had in their life and everything they ever had in their life.
Exactly, and contrast that with the former Rebel Alliance, now New Republic. They embrace family. They know that there's way more to life than just um, things, than fighting. And can you hear that in the background?
Huh?
Are you picking up the vacuum in the background?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna go take care of that. Why don't you keep talking and I'll mute my side.
If I can breathe. Uh, but yeah, especially in I think the new season of Mandalorian and the direction in which it's gone and going. Uh, a, I think that there needs to be at least one more season. What do you think? Do you think there needs to be one more season of Mando? At least
Oh, I hope there's 3 or 4 more seasons of Mando. So
there's no way that they're gonna be able to wrap anything up like in the few episodes that we have left.
no, there's got to be more. And let me see how many episodes of Mandalorian are left.
5, I believe.
I think so too.
Whew.
Let's see here.
Man.
Episodes. Season 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we got 5 more episodes. So April 19th is going to be the final episode of this season. And I'm going to say this again and again. I appreciate the like the more like the better format as far as visual quality, the writing. Like each episode is kind of like a little mini movie.
Yeah.
But what I loathe about this newer format for TV is not only are we paying to watch this, we used to never have to pay to watch a TV show, and we got way more of it. And I get it. They want to do higher quality stuff. They want to do more movies.
COVID.
As a fan, I would rather have better stories and more of them than what's basically. You don't even have 10. Hold on. One, two, three, four. Yeah, this is only 8 episodes this season, and they did this crap to us with the Book of Boba Fett, and I think this is stupid. And I don't really appreciate that they're making these very short episodes. They're doing it with Star Trek. They're doing it with pretty much every single franchise that they've brought back or anything new that's been around forever. They're taking so
An episode used to be almost an hour long, 40 minutes, 48 minutes.
Yeah, and most TV shows, especially in the 90s and very early 2000s, you
Or
would get
15 to
20,
25 episodes.
you'd get 20 to but somewhere between 20 and 30 episodes every season. And now we're lucky to see a third of that. Like we're not even seeing 10 episodes this season. We're seeing 8. And it's bullcrap. I mean, and the worst thing is some of their other seasons, I think the last, let me look. They had longer, like season 2 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had 8. Okay. What about 1? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so apparently this 8 episode thing
For
is a
Mandalorian, yeah.
format. It's a format for the Mandalorian that they've committed to. I thought that they had more longer episodes. Now I know that with like the animated series like the Bad Batch, they've got more
Well, I think they had
episodes.
more episodes.
Bad
Uh,
Batch has twice as many. Bad Batch has a total of 16 episodes
well, I
scheduled
think they
for
had
this
more
season.
episodes in the other TV live action series for Star Wars. Didn't they
I mean,
have?
Book of Boba Fett was 8 episodes. Um, Obi
Was it?
Wan, I think Obi Wan was 8 episodes too. Let me look up Obi Wan. No, Obi Wan was only 6 episodes.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so what really made me mad about Obi-Wan was they did a really good job of it. That was excellent. And then right out the gate, right as it's ending, they're like, "Oh yeah, we were only planning on doing one season of this." And it's like, "Why are you killing something?" First off, you gave everybody blue balls because it was a great show.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it on one hand, it was originally supposed to be a live action movie, and to go from what's basically a 2-hour movie to 6 hours or more or whatever it was.
now 6 episodes is an hour and a half.
Yeah, so I mean, but either way, it's like into 6 episodes, is great. But the problem that I have is, first off, it's only 6 episodes. I
Yeah,
don't know who their target demographic really is, but if they're trying to target fans, and this is something that
people with ADHD.
this is something I'm going to speak out against for every single, every franchise, because Star Trek's doing it too.
Yep.
They're trying to go with more stories versus one single story. They're trying to have, they tell you that they're putting out more Star Trek or more Star Wars, well, especially with Star Trek. But
Yeah, we
reality
what
is they're
4 new
taking the
series Star Trek.
they're, yeah, they're taking the 25 to 30 episodes that we'd get of one thing, and they're splitting it up across three or four different seasons, and I don't like that at all. That's a really stupid compromise. You get something like Picard, where the story is they have hit that, um, and I think we should switch over and start talking about Picard. Um,
I think the next
and
episode of Picard is going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a pivotal one. It's definitely going to reveal a lot of stuff. I think.
right, yeah. So like with Picard, there's definitely this show has definitely got grew its beard, and they've like season one was good. It was one of the few Star Trek series where right out the gate they had actually really done a good job. Most of the
Yeah,
Star Trek series historically they don't grow into their beard until about the third season, and this was true of even Discovery. Like my first take on Discovery in its first season, it was like, what the fuck? And season two kind of cleared it up a little bit. I did enjoy the Terran Empire story, but this is, and that's coming from someone who for whatever reason, it's not like I hate the Terran Empire, but I could live without knowing anything that's happening in that alternate universe and still enjoy Star
yeah.
Trek, if that makes any sense. But
No, it does.
but by season three, okay, season three, they did a really, really good job with it. Um, and so the same thing was true of like Next Generation. So it didn't actually really truly take off until the third season. Um, like they used like season one kind of introduced everybody. Season two did good enough for them to renew it for the third season. But the problem with season two of Next Generation is there were some drama with contract disputes and staff treatment where Gates McFadden had left, and so they had brought in uh, oh, I can't remember her name, but the character she played was Pulaski. And
Yeah,
so that was really interesting that they, when with Next Generation, they had Pulaski as a doctor, but they kept Wesley Crusher. And yeah, we got some feedback on Twitch already. So there's yeah, so random Rick. Uh, so you say Star Trek Voyager is the best Star Trek, huh? So I want to talk about that. It actually wound up being a lot better than it started. So when I was watching Voyager when I was growing up, the thing that kind of turned me off about it was they got this ship because so first off we just got through Deep Space Nine. There was the Dominion War. We saw the end of it. There was so much of a huge transition that what happened after Deep Space Nine, and we haven't really explored all that until Picard. But so from the end of Deep Space Nine to the beginning of Picard, every ounce of Star Trek had absolutely nothing to do with progressing that story. And so, like with Voyager, it progressed parts of it. Like I think at some point they had told Voyager, "Hey, the Dominion War is over with," and because they figured out
yeah,
how to have transgalactic or whatever the word that you want to use for it. They used a wormhole to send messages back and forth.
yeah.
And so they were, so that was kind of interesting. But Voyager was a self-contained story. Voyager, the way they wrote Voyager, because of where it physically took place, and the fact that they really didn't have contact with the Alpha Quadrant for the majority of that. Arguably, that may have been some of the best Trek that they've ever put out, because they were finally able to. So, and I think in some ways they did with Voyager what they had to do with Discovery to make it better.
Yeah,
So, like for example, with Discovery, the reason why fans reacted negatively to season 1 and 2, um, with with Discovery, is because they rejiggered all the appearance. They completely changed so much, and it was like they were saying, "Well, this is the Star Trek about 10 years before Kirk," and it didn't resemble it whatsoever. So, in order for that story and those ships and those characters to really make sense, they had to push it off into the future. So
yeah,
they pushed it up to the 32nd century. So they took that story to a different time, but they took Voyager to a different place. So the nice thing what they did with Voyager, taking it to a different place, was they could revisit all the discoveries, all the new stuff that Star Trek was known for.
right.
So here's new planets we haven't been to. Where they don't know who the Federation is, uh, and able to revisit all those stories that made Star Trek great. And so because they moved away from that, after that's when they started doing, this is when a lot of sci-fi had this hard on for prequels. And I've said
Yeah,
this back then, and I'm going to say it again. I really believe the only reason they went back to did Enterprise, to take it back before 100 years before Kirk, was because at the same time Enterprise was being put on the air. They had just did first contact a few years prior,
uh huh.
and Star Wars was coming out with Episode One. Now, the problem that I have is Star Wars actually had a place set in stone that they would be able to and should go to, uh, because A New Hope eventually became known as Episode Four. So they had 1, 2, and 3 that they had to fill in. But then the problem that they had uh, with Enterprise was the fact that they don't have, we could have literally not seen Enterprise and still enjoyed Star Trek, is all I'm saying. First off, what we saw in Enterprise wasn't the prime universe. Uh, if there was any proof that that wasn't like the prime canon universe, the one that literally brought us into the original series,
Yeah,
is at some point they show the Borg. Why would they show the Borg? Um, Even if you just ignored that there was a temporal Cold War that was going on right in Episode One, which already kind of hinted at us that somebody is screwing with the timeline.
yeah.
That's bullcrap. And so, in order to continue with that, they introduced the Borg. That was affected by um, First Contact when Picard went back in time
Yep.
and had to save the universe. But
Or if
they
you're Captain Asshole, fuck it up, as he likes to remind Picard of everything.
yeah. Yeah, so about that, reminding Picard, so I thought that conversation on the turbo lift was interesting. Um like he makes 3 movie references back to back to back. Oh yeah, that time you crashed the Enterprise desaucer section into the planet.
Time you
That
went
was
back
a
and fucked up the entire timeline.
and And so then after that, I think it was the next reference had to do with the what he was Insurrection, where
Yeah,
he did something. He were like it was a reference to Insurrection, but it wasn't something that we saw on screen. But we knew at the end of Insurrection he was planning on taking some shore leave to go and sleep with the Sona woman. And that's what Shaw was pointing out. It's like, yeah, you did this just so you could sleep with that Sona woman. And then after that, the next reference was about going back in time to and referring to the uh, first contact. So we're gonna join Angelo here. He's here with audio. Hey there, how you doing, man? Mic working? Okay. Guess it's not his day to do that. But it's all right. Yeah, we'll play around. We'll get viewers and other people on here to join us, and we'll talk about this sort of thing because that's fun. Oh, well, that's not the only person having technical difficulties. That's not nice. Let's see if Jeff comes back. He's having internet connection problems this morning. Yeah. So we'll see if he comes back. I'll give him a few minutes. Okay. We'll bring Angelo back though. Hey, what's up, man? Is your mic on? So yeah. So apparently Comcast doesn't know how to provide Jeff with an internet connection that doesn't suck. So I don't know what's going on with that. I will probably end up helping him straighten that out soon, but in the meantime, he's trying to get his connection back. So there's probably some things that he can do to fix that. Yeah. Um, I don't think. So let's talk about Enterprise. I guess while we wait for Jeff to come back, and I don't know what's going on with Angelo. I guess he's having technical difficulties too. Um, but either way, yeah. So let's talk about Enterprise. So my biggest complaint about Enterprise was why are we going back in time? Why are we going back in time when we don't actually have a story that we need to go back to. Like with Star Wars, like I said, we had to fill in one, two, and three. So that was a story that we needed to. That gave us the backstory for Luke and Vader and Leia, and pretty much the entire second trilogy, which is our original trilogy. Yeah, the fact that they did two, one, and three um, is a really weird way because depending on are we talking chronologically with the story, or are we talking chronologically with the release dates? Whether you're going to talk about first, second, or third trilogy. So it's easier to say original, prequel, or sequel. But then now we got the other sequel trilogy, 7, 8, and 9 that came out. But anyway, it didn't make any sense to me why we went to 100 years for Enterprise. That show was doing really bad with ratings. I think I complained about it a lot when it was on the air. I really did. I wasn't the only one. It was all over the message boards. There's a lot of people now who, like me, look back and realize the genius in the writing of that show. And it's sad that it's not going to make a comeback. All the actors have aged. There's no reason for them to make a comeback. And it's just kind of what it was. What I was really upset about was realizing that the Columbia class, the NX refit, that actually gave it an engineering section, and it looked very close to the original. Well, to the original Enterprise. Let's see if I can't show us. Let's see here. I'll pull up a picture of this. Oh, I like this picture of it. So let's take a look here. Screen. Da, da, da. So this is the original. Hold on, let me get rid of that. Yeah, so that's the original, the refit rather of the NX-01. This is what was promised to us for season 5, but we didn't find out about any of that until after CBS killed it because of poor ratings. Well, they got poor ratings because people were talking crap about it because it wasn't what they expected. Literally, if this is the ship that they would have led on with much sooner, that would have saved the show. First off, we have the Enterprise NX-01. It didn't have phasers; it had phase cannons. That could have been dealt with. I mean, whatever, older ship, different weaponry. But then they had no shields and transporters that nobody trusted, which is fine. Again, new technology. But the thing that really got me was between the fact that the warp drives was much slower than the Vulcans. We had static with the Vulcans because the Vulcans were supposedly holding us back. And by holding us back, they weren't helping us develop further. They were making us, well, you want to go faster with warp, you figure it out yourself. And but ultimately, we didn't have shields. We didn't get shields until after the Federation was formed, and the Andorians gave us shielding technology. So that's uh, that's kind of what happened with this, and that definitely irked me that we didn't get that ship. So, but yeah, that was some bullshit. They didn't need to kill that ship at all. But they showed the NX-01 before the refit just being thrown into mothballs, turning into a museum ship at the end of Enterprise. That was their haphazard, real quick. Let's just kill this thing before, uh, because the CEO of CBS says we got to kill this thing. And I always thought that was annoying because there was nothing wrong with it. There was not a damn thing wrong with it. But yeah, I just overall didn't enjoy Enterprise as much as I did the other series. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, um, because I was already annoyed that Voyager didn't show what happened after Deep Space Nine, and then they turned around and brought in, well, they brought in crap, this Enterprise crap to, well, let's go even further back in history to see stuff that we don't really need to see, but yet let's not move the story forward. So now we turn around, and now we got finally get Picard, and Picard showing now Picard is very clearly about Picard himself. So, but that's fine because we like Picard, and but we're starting to see things that happened after the Dominion War. One critical thing that some might say about Picard was they didn't spend enough time talking about what happened after the Dominion War, but they went straight in and made certain events from the 2009 Kelvin timeline into canon. So they referred to the destruction of Romulus, which, to be fair, did happen in the Prime timeline. So there is a certain camp that doesn't accept the 2009 Kelvin timeline as any sort of canon because of the way they wrote it. I would have to agree with that. They literally tell you they make it very obvious this is a different timeline. They show, you know, Prime Spock. So Spock was an interesting character because he was here from the original series and he existed all throughout all the Next Generation movies, all through Deep Space Nine. And so when Romulus was destroyed, it was because of basically it was they pinned it on Spock. Whether or not that was really Spock's fault, I don't think it was, but they blamed Spock for the destruction of Romulus, and so Romulus was pissed off. The Federation made it very clear in season one of Picard, where Picard was trying to uh, get that ship so we could go find out what's going on with the synths. And so what had happened was, because the Federation couldn't go help Romulus the way Picard wanted him to, because he had built his career being friendly with the Romulans and made peace with them, and even was a sort of father figure to Elnor. So he didn't, so Elnor was raised by Romulan nuns, for lack of a better word, and didn't have a father figure. But it was Picard that was the closest thing to a dad that Elnor ever had. So we take a look at that. And then when the androids decided to destroy Mars and defeat Mars, um, which took that away from the Federation. Like, by the time, even in season 3, and this is like 20-ish years after, before, timeline wise, Mars was still burning. There was a line where somebody says, I can't remember who, but they're like, Mars is still burning. And, but they were Federation was so occupied with evacuating Mars and fighting the synthetic threat that they couldn't allocate enough resources, if any, to go help Romulus after their planet got destroyed. And so Star Trek Online is an interesting game, because the way I understood it, the way it's been explained to me, is that story is canon until something on screen contradicts that. So we see that they moved to a new planet, New Romulus, and they were rebuilding um, their society. And so the old guard, the old Romulan Empire, uh, it fragmented. It turned into a Romulan Republic. And so, yeah, I just thought that was really interesting that they did that. Yeah, I think Jeff's gonna come back. I'm gonna give him a little bit more time. It's getting kind of frustrating here, just talking, you know, but yeah. So I do think Deep Space Nine, though, was one of the best series in Star Trek overall. They And again, just like the other series, they really didn't come into its own until like season 3. Season 3 of Deep Space Nine brought in the Dominion War, where we literally saw some of the best stories. Just Deep Space Nine was an example of, in my opinion, even better Trek: The Next Generation. And so some of the serialized story writing that's now normal for modern shows. Now they had started doing some serialized stories with Deep Space Nine, and it worked really well. But fuck you, Kurtzman. Fuck you, CBS. Fuck you, Paramount, for trying to put up less than a dozen episodes a season, because Deep Space Nine was doing serialized story writing very well, and we still got 25 to 30 episodes. So this is just one of those things that isn't going to change. Um, I would absolutely accept lower production quality if that meant more of a story. So with Strange New Worlds, I love Strange New Worlds. With Strange New Worlds, they started bringing back the episodic format. Okay, great, you're halfway there. Now give us more shows, give us more episodes. And they're only half-assed giving us what we want. This isn't this really isn't the Star Trek that we grew up with. This isn't what Star Trek originally was, and I can accept they're not going to do that with every season, but they can absolutely try to put out at least a minimum, a floor. Well, let's just set bare minimum 15 episodes a season. Promised at least 15 no matter what, trying to target 20. Between 15 and 20 episodes a season, you know what? I can do that. I would be okay. That's going to meet us halfway. 15 to 20 episodes, and it really doesn't matter at this point if it's serialized or episodic, but definitely commit to a storytelling type for a show. The only reason they were able to switch, between episodic and serialized with Deep Space Nine is because they had basically 30 episodes a season. So if they did go through a story arc of 5 episodes where it was serialized, it was fine. And then they could go back to episodic, they or they write an episode like with Voyager where they have these episodes where it didn't move the story forward any, like the Krenim episodes. I think it was one, maybe two. I can't remember. I just seem to remember it was one. There were time travel, and it doesn't move the story forward. It just adds to the depth of the story. So if you're looking for like a what, like if you were to sit there and ask somebody what's, you know, a list of episodes from every season that isn't a master list of every episode, to introduce somebody to Star Trek Voyager, for example, you could actually leave out the Krenim episode and you can still show them other episodes that are letting the story progress to let them understand, they start off, they launch at Deep Space Nine, they go in the Badlands, some sort of crazy ass caretaker array launches them to the Delta Quadrant, and they work their way back. They it's like they it made sense. So it made, it was fine that they had these other episodes, and it wasn't just, the Krenim. There were a lot of them that they could have completely not written, and they could have replaced with, here's, an episode that moves the story forward. Like for example, they could have completely just not done the Warp 10 episode with the salamanders, and it would have been just fine. But they did. Um, I'm not going to say that was a good idea because that, from what I understand, is one of the worst rated Star Trek episodes. Like period. Like one of the worst. Like if every time you look at a list of like the worst Star Trek episodes from the whole franchise, that episode is pretty close to the top of the worst. May not be number one, but it's definitely no lower than number 5 in terms of the worst episodes that they've ever put out for Star Trek. So, yeah, and I think, and that's really hard now that they're actively producing it again. So one of the things that I want to point out, one of my gripes, so with like with Star Wars: The Bad Batch, for example, because it's animated, they're able to do more episodes. I thought that was really cool that they brought back one more season of Clone Wars just to introduce and set up the story for the Bad Batch. And they did a really good job at that. But because it's animated, it's not live action, they can do more shows. They can bring back characters as long as they're alive to record the voice. Then they can bring these people back and write new stories. So that would probably be the only way they could bring back like Star Trek Enterprise, as if they made like a animated version. But at any rate, so Lower Decks. Lower Decks is one of the. It's animated. It's not live action. There's no reason for them to have such a short number of episodes every season. But let's take a look at the average season length. I'm pulling them up on IMDb. We are up to 3 released seasons, so Season 1 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 10 episodes. An animated, basically a cartoon that they absolutely could have released 15 to 20 with no excuses. Um, so again, whoever in the entertainment industry thought this was good idea to, and a perfectly good excuse. Oh, well, we're just going to raise production value, but we're going to give you less. Fuck you, you lazy cunts. But, so we take a look at season 2. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hold on. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Okay, cool. So season 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So again, season 3. So let's see what they say for season 4. And again, it's 10 episodes. So just like with with the Mandalorian, they're locked into 8 episodes every season. Let's see if we can bring Angelo. I would love his opinion on this. Yeah, alrighty. Can you hear me? Can I hear you? I can't hear you yet. You're on, buddy. So you probably have like a microphone permissions problem. I don't think Melon has an app. I think it's just through your phone's web browser, and maybe at some point the web browser doesn't have microphone permissions. Um, I'll just leave this on here. But either way, I don't like this short format bullcrap, because if you're making a cartoon, you're making an animation, you have no excuse for not making more shows. There's no excuse for it. It's just lazy. It's lazy. This is where I want to say nobody wants to work anymore. They don't. Not even the movie people who have the money to work as much as they want. They still only put out piecemeal seasons. So I don't know. That could be an entire rant where I could spend so much time trying to gripe about it. I don't know what's going on Angelo's side. I know Jeff's connection completely petered out, and I don't think that I'm going to be able to carry this on too much longer anyway. But at any rate, yeah, Lower Decks is great. So the cool thing about Lower Decks is the writers for that show actually hang out in the groups that a lot of the fans do, like Star Trek shitposting, for example. They're in there, and I figured that out. And I learned that because some of the chatter in those groups, hey, I mentioned this such and such. Oh, wouldn't that be cool? If blah 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 happens. I mentioned that during last season. Now season 2 rolled around, and now this thing happens. And so it came out that one of the writers says, "Yeah, we're listening to you. We're talking. We're doing this. So we want your feedback. We're listening to what you have to say." So even though they've only got, you know, 10 episodes a season, at the very least, the writers are making an effort to meet us in the middle. And basically, it's more of a fan service. So Lower Decks is, to the way I see it, that's Star Trek for the fans. Like Picard is Star Trek for the fans, but Picard is also meant to progress the story. Lower Decks takes place, well, during this time it's after Nemesis, so Riker's got command of the Titan, the Luna class Titan, not the newer version of it, but yeah, so it's right after Nemesis, but before Picard, before I think it's even before Romulus was destroyed. So It's a really interesting time slot in the grand scheme of the Star Trek universe because they don't have to do anything that's new or revolutionary, and they still do because it's Star Trek. I mean, reasonably so. There's all these shows, these planets that we haven't learned about yet that conceivably they'll go to, um, like these lesser known, but they keep going. They keep revisiting all sorts of stuff that's like popular from original episodes. Like in season 3, there was an episode where they went to a planet that Picard basically. So the episode that they're referring to was Next Generation, where there were people from two different planets. They had issues with one that was producing a certain drug that they had used to basically enslave people on the other planet to make them dependent on said drug because that was the only thing that their planet had to offer as far as resources. So they used that to take advantage of the planet that had all the resources. It was a really messed up thing, but at any rate, the way that episode ended was Picard and crew basically sat them both in a room, said drugs are bad. Okay, guys need to stop this, and you need to find a better way. Well, supposedly after Picard warped out of there, he never came back. So when the Cerritos crew arrives at that planet, they're pissed off at the Federation. Why'd you leave us? We were happier when we had our drugs, and that was basically that episode. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think that we'll see a change in the length of seasons for any of these shows anytime soon. I think this is just what we have as far as TV is nowadays. As far as I'm concerned, this is what TV has devolved to. It's not an evolution, it's not a step forward, it's a step back. Anytime you're going to give fans less, like these aren't even full TV seasons. I would actually accept each one of these if they just called it what it is, a mini series. Because a mini series, there we go. Mandalorian, that's definitely a mini series. Doesn't even have 10 episodes a season. Picard, that's a mini series. I think it's only got 10 episodes. It's just a multi-season miniseries. It's not a real TV show in my eyes. But at any rate, I'm going to end this. Hopefully, next time we do this should be next week, but we may end up doing this again. I don't know. We'll just have to play it by ear. But so hopefully next week we'll get some of these technical difficulties again. This is the first time I've took this channel live in months, so I'm sorry. So if some of you liked it or missed it or whatever, I'm sorry, but I want to start doing this more often, and we'll have more open discussions. So definitely, if you're a fan of the shows, if you like to have a discussion on air with us, we're definitely set up to do that. So I don't know why Angelo couldn't join. Uh, we'll have to figure that out another time, I guess. But either way, it was fun, and we'll see you next time. Definitely next week, but we could pop up throughout the week. It's not that hard for us to go live usually. But have a good one, folks.